Hello, sixth grade innovators. This is Mr. Chamberlain, and I have a tutorial for you. It might be the most important tutorial that you learn on the laser. So as you already saw in part one of this video, when you are ready to make your very first cardstock image, you'll want to get someone else to work with. So you saw that Mr. Lundberg and I got each other, we made sure we were ready, and we both came in here into the laser cutting room. Now that you're in the laser cutting room, I'm going to take you step by step. So the best way to do this is to have either both of your Chromebooks open, one of your Chromebooks open, anything open that you can listen to the instructions while you do it on the actual laser computer. When I say laser computer, I mean this big computer that's next to our green or blue laser. So if you're ready to go, you're with somebody else and you're sitting here and you're ready to go. So the first thing I did was I went to my drive. That's just drive.google.com. And it'll bring you to whoever's. It doesn't matter who you do first, but you want to have someone to drive up. And we'd already told you to have something saved into your drive. In this case, I've got my little chocolate design from earlier. So I'm going to click it to open it. It pops up there in the corner. When it opens, I'm going to pick a spot for it. And there it is right there. Now you'll notice that it appeared just fine. And I've also preset my size here to 6 by 6. We had said that whatever you're making is a 6 by 6. So if you look and yours doesn't say 6 by 6, like let's say yours said 12 by 18 or something, then that's a whole different dimension on your Corel. So we want to make sure that it's 6 by 6. And if it's 6 by 6 and your thing still fits in here, then that's perfect. That's what we want. Now that I've got one person's up, I'm going to go back to the drive. I'm going to get out of it and I'm going to log out and have the other person log in. And in this case, if I was working with Mr. Lundberg, he would log in on his, but I'm just going to log back into mine just to show you the idea. So you log out and the other person logs in. Now the other person's logged in, we're going to just open up theirs. So I made another one called Happy Happy. I'm going to download it and open it from the corner. Okay. And now I've got a second one up here. Notice in the corner, it's still 6 inches by 6 inches, which is what we want. So it opened in its own tab right here. I have a tab for my chocolate one, and I have a tab for my other one. We want to get our design from one onto the other. We want to get them both on the same one. So the easiest way to do that is just to copy and paste. And here's how you do it. Take one person's or the other's, doesn't matter. Click and drag so that everything is selected there. If you've got something hanging over on the side, just click and drag the whole thing. I copy by holding down Control and pressing C. Now I copied it. And I'm going to paste it on the other one. So now I've got this window here. And to paste it, I just hold down Control and press V. Now that I've done that, I've got it sitting here. And I obviously it's right on top of the other one. So if I grab it in the middle and I move it over, now I've got both of them fitting in the spot that I want. If I want to now, you can see this little outer box is kind of our 6 by 6 template. Well, we've got two 6 by 6 things here, right? So I probably want to change mine to being 12 long by 6. So 12 long by 6. Now, if I zoom in, this is pretty much the amount of space that you're going to be able to print on this back one. So I just want to make sure that whatever I have is kind of fitting in there nicely. Notice what I do is I click and drag to grab everything and then move it. I can even do that for all of it. I can move the whole thing at once. But I want to make sure it fits here because when we actually put it on the laser here in a second, it has to fit within the constraints here. So I changed to 12 long by 6. Now it's the actual fun part. This is surprisingly quick and easy how to print it on the laser. You're going to want to get a piece of cardstock from me or Mr. Lundberg, and I'll tell you where to put the cardstock in the laser here in a second. So now that it's ready to print, we're going to go to File, Print, and there's several print options here, but only one of them is the printer for the laser. It's usually the last one. It's the VLS one. So I'm going to select the VLS printer. And when I press print, it's not going to actually start the printer up yet. It's going to start the printer software, the laser cutter software. So on the bottom here of all your choices, there should be a red little diamond thing. It says Universal Laser System. If that hasn't appeared after you press print, you're going to want to get Mirror Mr. Lundberg. We can open it back up. But when you click to open it, we have this brand new shiny window. This is the software for the laser cutter. If you take a look at it, you're going to see that we have this grid. It says 24, it goes up to by 18. If you go over and get up and look at the laser, you'll see that the bed that it sits on is 24 inches long by 18 wide. So literally this big white space is the exact same space as the laser where it has spots to print. If I were to press print now, it would print in the very center of the laser cutter. And we don't really want that. We can't really get it precise. What I want you to do is grab this little 4-directional arrow button. If I go to the very center, I can click and drag this and put it in the corner like that. So if you look at the laser, can you visualize where it's going to print? It's going to print in the top left corner. So when I get that cardstock and I've moved it into this place, I want to put my cardstock right here in the same place as it's going to print. I can open the hood. You could probably even hear that just now. I'll open the hood. I'll get my piece of cardstock and I'll place it in the top left corner of the laser. We even have some weights sitting around. You'll find some weights that can kind of hold down the paper in the corners so that you might want to put a little weight in the corner here. You might want to put a little weight in the corner there. And that way it won't blow away, because in a second you're going to see things will blow away. Okay, we're already halfway done. Next step is to turn on the laser and get it ready to actually cut. So the power button for the laser is right here. And you can probably hear on this recording the sound of the laser turning on. It takes maybe 10 seconds, but when it does, we're almost ready to cut. We just have to set it to cut on cardstock. You'll know that it turns on when this big button turns green. So now I'm ready to go. Before we press play on this, though, we have to change our settings a little bit. So in the settings, there's only one thing you have to change. If you haven't already, if it doesn't open up to the database, you just click this button. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that we can eventually cut. You can cut glass, you can cut foam, you can cut metal, but we're going to do cardstock. And what is cardstock made out of? It's made out of paper. So if I go to the little specific thing in paper, I've got a construction paper setting. The construction paper setting has everything that I need. And all I have to do is decide how thick it is. It says material thickness. Well, it's only 0.012 thick, super thin. Once I've selected that, I now have got everything I need to do. I press apply. I'm going to go to the manual and make sure everything looks okay. I pressed apply. I press OK. And I would press play now. Except if I press play now, I'm going to probably have it catch on fire. That's because as it's cutting into the cardboard, it does produce some smoke. So there's two things you'll want to make sure are open. Right behind these computers is a big red switch. The red switch says laser printer exhaust fan. I'm going to flip it on. And it just got much louder in here again. And then if you look above the actual printer, maybe 5 feet above the printer, there's a vent. There's even a sign that says vent. There's a little slider on the vent that you can pull open and close. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to pull the vent open. When I pull the vent open, now there's a space for me to have the smoke leave if I want. Everything is set. All I have to do now is press play. And if you look over, if you've done everything right, you should see your engraver starting to work. It's very important that you don't lift it up while it's working, because it'll stop engraving. But once it's finished and it's done its whole thing, it might take 10 minutes. Then you can open up the engraver, grab your cardstock design, and then continue on, which I think means showing Mirror Mr. Lundberg. So that's your really quick tutorial. If you follow it step by step, you shouldn't have any issues. So I'll say, besides that, I'm going to say good luck.